Welcome to, what is today, Thursday?
It is Thursday.
Big Blue Kickoff Live presented by Cadillac, the
days
official
are getting
luxury vehicle of the
confusing these
Giants.
days.
I am John Schmeelk, he's Paul Dottino. Sorry for starting a couple minutes late, folks. I was wrapping up a John Settle podcast that I'll be posting next week with Nate Tice over at Yahoo Sports. And Nate and I were going back and forth on a couple tight ends and a couple of offensive linemen at the end of the show. And we went a little bit over, which is my fault. I gave him the last question at 12:27, and I had to ask a follow-up of the damn thing, and I couldn't help myself. Big show coming your way here on Big Blue Kickoff live from the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. John Schmeelk, Paul Dottino. We're going to have a reporter that covers Ole Miss joining us in just a little bit as we continue rolling through our draft prospects. Paul, how are you, buddy?
Doing all right, John. It's a much nicer day here in northern New Jersey. Busy day.
We're almost going to hit 50 today. We're almost going to hit
52 is the forecast for 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Yes.
Looking forward to that. The sun is out. It's beautiful, just beautiful.
It has been quite dreary, and this is how you know it's
Indeed.
been raining a lot, and we'll get to our guest in literally a second. My spring allergies haven't kicked in yet, and tree pollen gets me. So the minute it starts getting warm and everything starts to bloom, I'm going to start dying. And I haven't started dying yet. That's how you know it's been cold and dreary, because I have not started dying yet, and it is April 10th.
I'm starting to die.
Oh, are you starting now,
Yeah.
Pearson?
Yeah.
That means I'm going to be close behind. I already started taking my meds just in case to almost preempt the dying.
It was late last week. I had 2 days that the tree pollen
getting you.
really beat me up.
It was probably
And then
the warm days, right?
Since I've been fine. Yeah, exactly.
All right, so now let's get to our guest. I'm sure it's a lot warmer and nicer down there in Oxford, right? Is that Ole Miss? Oxford, Mississippi? Is that correct?
Yeah, Oxford, Mississippi. Yeah.
I do have that
There we
right.
go.
Thank you very much. Now, I should know that from Eli Manning being there.
That's true.
And we're joined by Steven Willis from Locked On Ole Miss. Steven, you got John Schmeelk and Paul Dottino up here in East Rutherford. How you doing, man?
I'm doing quite well. I'm actually in Central Florida right now, so y'all are worried about spring. I'm getting ready for summer.
That sounds about right. All right, Steven, let's not allow the large elephant in the room to sit there long over the course of this interview. Jaxson Dart, you've watched him a long time. You've seen him probably throw more throws than both Paul and I put together. What is an NFL team getting with Jaxson Dart before we start digging into the details?
You're getting somebody that is going to be completely all in. I mean, like Peyton Manning level of all in of being a quarterback. He's somebody that developed from 2022 to 2024 in like leaps and bounds. He's probably one of the best deep ball passers in the entire country, if not the best. The negative is on that is sometimes he likes to use that as a little bit of a crutch, and you can have a little bit of 1970s Oakland Raiders that just appears every now and then. But he's very good at what he does, an extremely accurate quarterback, and anytime he has a problem, he doesn't have it for long. He truly is a remarkable quarterback.
You know, the one thing, and I'm a big Dart guy, and when we talked yesterday, Steven, I told you that. I'm very much a Jaxson Dart guy. But the one thing that does occasionally trouble me, his mechanics do sometimes get out of whack and will force some inconsistencies on his accuracy. Now, that's not something that is going to ruin him. Obviously, it's not. His production was off the charts. We know he's tough. We know he's mobile. We know he's assertive. We know he's got leadership skills. To me, it's a small blemish that I think can be polished up when he gets to the next level. But what I'm curious about, because some other people say to me, well, they look at having Kiffin as his guy being a negative. They say, well, there's a lot of schematic stuff that he does to make it easy for the quarterback. And when Jaxson gets to the NFL, he's going to have a lot more trouble because it's a lot more complex. And maybe he's not going to be able to deal with it. I don't buy that, but I'd love to hear your take.
Lane Kiffin, his offensive system is a little bit different than the standard run-of-the-mill college quarterback. Still very good. All of the traits are there, but you're all right. One of the big complaints that people have are quarterbacks that come out of a Kiffin system is not quite NFL ready. Well, Lane Kiffin has kind of addressed this, and last season Joe Judge was an analyst on the staff. Somebody looking at the way the NFL goes, they work closely with quarterbacks. So Jaxson Dart has actually had a year with somebody that recently has been in rooms talking about NFL quarterbacks. So last season was a little bit different in the concepts and everything they were doing at Ole Miss. So I don't know if Jaxson Dart falls in the same trap as, say, Matt Corral coming out of Ole Miss. I think Jaxson Dart is probably going to be a little bit more pro-ready because, honestly, in 2024, Ole Miss was much more pass-dependent, and so much of the offense was on Jaxson Dart as opposed to what Matt Corral was in 2021, if that makes sense.
I think that does make sense. Another question I want to follow up on the quarterback. I think in a couple of games against some of the better teams, at the end of games, Ole Miss got the ball back with a chance to come back and win, and it didn't look great. And I'm wondering why. Do you agree with that? And how do you think Jaxson Dart handled some of those kind of big-time tough situations and close games at the ends of some of these big games?
This year, it didn't quite work out. In 2023, it all worked out. There were lots of last-second drives where Jaxson Dart led the ball down the field. As a sophomore against Mississippi State in a torrential rainstorm in Oxford, he led Ole Miss 99 yards for what would have been the game-tying touchdown. Ole Miss did not get the two-point conversion, but literally a game-tying drive that he led. I'm not worried about the clutch gene when it comes to Jaxson Dart. Now, It was concerning what happened at Florida last year, his last three drives. And I think a little bit of that had to come from the fact that Ole Miss struggled so much in the run game. So, therefore, Ole Miss was very predictable in what was going to happen. Trey Harris was injured in that second half. They were down a couple of players. I think Jaxson was just trying to do too much.
Let me ask you this, Steven, because, again, I know that you're very high on him, as am I. Pick him apart for me. Why did you tell the people out there, if there's something that he doesn't do really well that you're concerned about, that NFL teams are going to say, we got to pause for a minute before we think about this guy, what would it be?
I think in a way, I think Patrick Mahomes has ruined NFL quarterbacks and college quarterbacks because everybody wants to throw off platform. And everybody wants to be him and do those special things. And sometimes Jaxson can get a little bit inconsistent with his mechanics, and that can cause a ball to sell a little bit, especially in the middle of the field. His first year, he had a lot of trouble in the middle of the field with interceptions, and that got cut way down. But the gunslinger mentality with Jaxson Dart and the mechanical tweaks and throwing off platforms can be problematic for him.
All right, I want to follow up on one more thing on Dart, and then we can jump to one of the other. You guys have a great class coming out this year. There's a lot of really good players, so I don't want to spend too much time on Dart here. His deep ball. He throws some really pretty deep balls down the sideline, drops them right in the bucket where there's not a lot of space. He throws some back shoulder stuff in the sideline, too. Then, especially earlier in the year, there were a bunch of throws deep where he just couldn't get it out there and he underthrew it. And that kind of surprised me. I thought there was some inconsistency there. What did you see from him and the development of his deep ball over the course of his time at Ole Miss?
I think by the time he was done, he had the best deep ball in the entirety of college football. One of the things that kind of honestly helped Jaxson Dart was with Trey Harris going down midway through his senior year. He had to focus on Jordan Watkins with a little bit different type of wide receiver, and that forced him to basically lead the receiver more instead of throwing as many jump balls, because just throw the ball up to Trey Harris, he's going to get it. He's one of the better receivers in the whole NFL draft, in my opinion. But whenever you look at that, I think it was just Jaxson Dart. His ball placement's elite, man. I don't know how he does it. He has an elite ball placement whenever he winds up and does things the way they're supposed to be done. It's like I said, that unfolded lawn chair from time to time can kind of jump up and get him. And with those small windows in the NFL, that's gotten a lot of quarterbacks.
All right, let's talk about the guy who, outside of Dart, is going to be the highest pick from the Ole Miss draft contingent. That would be Walter Nolan. I'm looking at the measurements, 6'4", 296. He plays bigger than that because he's got tremendous strength, balance, seems to be pretty quick off the snap. How high do you think his ceiling's going to be?
Oh, man. Walter Nolan, if you told me anybody from Ole Miss's class, this big class that Ole Miss just had, reached superstardom, it would be Walter Nolan because of what he can do. It is amazing that there would just be shots during practice and leads up in games to where he's just doing Thor-like things, one-armed, like Reggie White-type stuff, just moving people And you're just like, how did he do that? This is a college offensive lineman. And it's like, no, it just didn't matter. And then his get-off is, like, super quick. He always talks about, like, he wants to be the next Aaron Donald, and nobody wants to put that kind of pressure on anybody. But this guy is legit. I do not know how he survived the time at Texas A&M not being as productive as he could have been. It's amazing. But his time at Ole Miss, they unlocked him. Randall Joyner at Ole Miss did a fantastic job. And whenever you have the extra edge rushers that they had, he actually got some single teams this year. And whenever that happens, that's all she wrote.
All right, I want to jump to his teammate on defense, Princely Uman Mielen, who you look at his win rate, some of the advanced statistics, they're tremendous. He gets a lot of pressure. He tests well. He's tall. He's long. He's got speed to the edge. I wonder about the power quotient to his game, though. And I think when I watched him do one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl, after watching him on tape before I got there, I think players started to figure out, all right, they're going to try to beat me with the outside rush, but where's the counter? Where's the power counter? What did you see from Uman Mielen in terms of having a complete game and being more than just a guy that tries to win with speed off the edge?
Honestly, in college, he could get away with winning with speed. That's going to be what he has to work on
and his
the
length.
Next level.
Yeah.
Because not many people can handle the way he can bend going around a corner.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have a situation with him to where if he finds that second thing, not necessarily a bull rush, I don't know if he'll ever have a true bull rush, but if he just has a spin, something kind of like a change-up to a fastball, if he can develop that next level, the sky's the limit for him. Because he has a superstar level personality. It's one of those things, if you talk to him, he just jumps off the page of being fantastic. And he has the talent in the world to go get the passer. If he can hold up against the run, if he can do the things that needs to happen from an edge defender in the league, the sky's the limit for that guy. I'm really interested to see where he goes.
One of my personal favorites, talking to him at the Combine, and I know he's not going to go very, very high, but there could be terrific value in defensive tackle J.J. Pegues, who is a guy who, wants to play fullback. We know he's an ex-tight end, and he wants to carry the ball. I get it, right? He's not the biggest guy. He's not the strongest guy. His technique may not always be the best, but the kid's very instinctive, and he absolutely loves the game. And those kinds of guys usually can produce a little bit more than what their measurables might say.
Yeah, he's that guy that probably hangs around on an NFL roster for 10 years and you don't really think of him. Nobody really knows. He's a supremely athletic guy, and he's 320 pounds, I think. I mean, he's a big guy. And listen, when he was in high school, the whole thing with Ole Miss putting him at fullback, that's not new. He did that all the way through. In Oxford High School, he was the Wildcat quarterback in the state championship game. Led them to a state championship as a Wildcat quarterback. And went to Auburn as a tight end. They converted him to defensive line. He transferred to Ole Miss. And they just call him the mayor of Oxford. People around that whole community love him.
I could tell. I was with him for a couple of minutes at the Combine. The kid is a pleasure to be around.
Mm-hmm. He's just loved. He's just beloved. And I genuinely, I cringed a little bit every time I saw him go in at fullback. Because I think it was Hugh Freeze on the Ole Miss team in like 2015. Ole Miss was playing Memphis, and they decided to take Robert Kimdichie, who was a big-time defensive lineman at that time, put him in at running back. He ended up getting a concussion and missed like 4 weeks. So Ole Miss fans have a little bit of PTSD about that. But it worked out. It all worked out. But he's a really good player, and I think he is a person that if you draft him in the 5th, 6th, 7th, whenever you take him, he's not going to embarrass your organization, and you're going to be proud to have him on your team.
I want to mention another guy that I think is probably going to be I would say an early day 3 pick, and that's Jared Ivey, the defensive end. Good two-way player, good height, weight, good length. But, man, his testing just did not work out well for him. He did not do well at the Combine, but you watch him. I had a chance to talk to him at the Senior Bowl. A really good player, solid player, does a little bit of everything. Why should people overlook some of the bad testing numbers that Ivey put up and pay attention more to the tape?
Well, whenever he is on a line, I think you need a Batman on that defensive line. You don't need to draft him and have him come in when you don't have a Batman. But if you have a Batman and he gets to be the Robin, he is so unbelievably effective when the pads go on. He is a really good player, great personality. Again, a lot of these kids are just really good kids. And I think Jared Ivey's big advantage that he has is the ability to play even and odd fronts because of his size. So I would be interested to see him running some 3-4 defensive end.
Yep, I agree.
And see what that would look like. And I think he might be able to test a little bit better there.
Yeah, I like him actually as a run-stopping edge more than as a pass rusher.
Yeah, you put him at left end against the right tackle, right, and you let him kind of do his thing.
That's where I think his chances are best to succeed in the NFL.
Yeah, put him at the 4-eye or like the 5 technique, right?
Trey Amos, very interesting. Outside corner, 4.43 is the time that I have for him at the combine. I wrote down I can see him playing press, but I also could see him playing some zone. He's got some versatility in the scheme. Your thoughts about how he might develop in the NFL?
Listen, the first thing you need to know about Trey Amos is even though he went to Louisiana Lafayette out of high school, Nick Saban allowed him to transfer to Alabama. And if you know how Nick Saban looks at defensive backs, you know the guy can play. So he goes to Alabama. Saban retires. He finds another home at Ole Miss with Pete Golding, who has some ties in that defense. Listen, the last half of the season, they didn't even throw to his side of the field. It didn't matter who Ole Miss was playing. It was completely locked down. It was one of the better defensive back performances that I can remember from an Ole Miss player in several years. This was an impressive getting. It might have been, even with Walter Nolan and Princely and Monmiel and all those guys, Trey Amos may have been the top transfer that Ole Miss got last season.
High praise. All right, I want to go back to the offensive side of the ball. You mentioned Trey Harris when you were talking about Jaxson Dart a little bit. I got to be honest with you. I struggle with Harris, not because I don't think he's extremely gifted. I really do. And there are some plays out there, even with him running routes, where you're like, wow, he just flashed something that could be special in the National Football League. But there's just not a huge route tree there, and he didn't run a sub 4.5. What is it about Harris, because you kind of referenced this already, to you that could make him really, really special in the National Football League?
He is a contested catch monster. If the ball's up there, he is going to win 50-50 balls. And Jaxson Dart made it a living on the deep ball, throwing those 50-50 balls down to Trey Harris while he was healthy. That and his catch radius is probably going to be the biggest thing going for him. He's not, if you want a comp of Ole Miss players, probably Laquan Treadwell would be an interesting comp looking at that.
Well, he's not very nifty, right, Steven? He's not very nifty. He doesn't have great quicks and great jukes.
He hasn't had to show it. I don't know for 100% fact that he isn't, if that makes sense. There's a lot of straight line in the game just because that's all he had to do. It might have been a situation that he was just too good for college football. But, I mean, I don't know. When he's going to get to the next level, he's not going to be able to run a straight line. So we're going to find out pretty quick how nifty he is.
Awesome. Paul, you got anything?
Fair enough. I just want to ask you about Chris Paul Jr. A little bit undersized, the 220s, 6'1". Looks like it was a 4.63 at the combine in terms of the time. What I like about him is that it looks like he's really good at reading plays, has some range, has pursuit skills, seems to really get after it. I'm not sure how he holds up on the inside in the NFL, but the guy's very instinctive, and he's what a lot of coaches are going to say. I know maybe all the measurables aren't exactly what you want, but he's a football player.
Yeah, if you have a defensive line that can keep linemen off of the linebackers,
he needs room.
He's going to make a lot of plays in your defense.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a situation to where he has to get bulky and play the run and take on a power play with a guard or something like that, it could be problematic. It could. But like I said, if you have that guy up front that you can put in front of him, one of those defensive linemen that everybody's going to be scared of, if you have that to give Jim just a second, that offensive lineman's not going to be able to get to him, and he's going to make plays on the edge all over. He's one of the better athletes that Ole Miss had on the defense last year. He, believe it or not, did not start the first 2 games for Ole Miss last year for whatever reason.
Whose fault was that?
It could have been injury. I don't know. They don't talk about injury. You don't necessarily know what's going on. But once he got on there, he did not come off anymore.
Right.
And he kind of took it over, and the defense kind of took his personality. So there's a leadership component of him that if he can do it, I want to see him at the next level. I want to see where he lands and how it goes, because he has a chance to, again, be somebody that sticks around for a while, at least on special teams, because he's a super athletic kid and loves contact.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't turn into a special teams captain for somebody pretty quickly, too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good stuff. Steven Willis from Locked On Ole Miss. Steven, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. Enjoy that Florida sunshine, my friend.
Be well.
Hey, and just want to point out before I go, between Charlie Connerly and Eli Manning, I think Jaxson Dart's probably looking pretty good right now, right?
I got no problems with that, Steven.
There is a good history there. Steven, I'm not sure he's getting the 34, though, dude.
No. I don't think so either.
I don't think he's making it past 9, if we're being honest. I think he's going to the Saints.
Ooh. Spicy. I like that.
There's a lot of heat there, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you, Steven.
Be well.
Steven Willis from Locked On Ole Miss. Good stuff, man. Thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. I think the Saints are a sleepy quarterback team. Derek Carr's probably on the last year of his deal there, based on the financials. And that would not – I think if Shador gets out of that top 7 range, past the Raiders, past the Jets, I think that's also a possible Shador destination as well.
And if you want to keep planning through the Manning connection, well, that's where Archie Manning, cut his teeth with the National Football League as a New Orleans Saints starting quarterback. So they know all about Mannings down there in the land of the Bayou. So, yes, I think he would be a very popular selection if the Saints wound up making that choice.
I like the way you said Bayou there. You tried to do like a little like Bayou accent on Bayou. That was pretty good.
Okay. For a Jersey Italian? That is pretty good.
Well, that's how I was impressed.
Thank you, sir.
I thought you had a little twang in there.
I tried a little bit. I wasn't going that hard, but I tried.
It was like Bayou. It was like one of those. It was like one of those politicians that's like from the Northeast and they go to the South and all of a sudden they start speaking with like these Southern accents. I love it.
They call it New Orleans.
Yes.
They don't
See,
even
that was again. He did it again.
Right?
He did it again.
They don't even say it the way it's spelled. They kind of run it together.
But Paul,
New Orleans.
Very briefly, it should be no surprise that Ole Miss had a great year this year. A lot of good players coming out on both sides of the ball, from Jaxson Dart to Trey Harris to all the guys on defense we talked about.
Well, I think that's 8 guys we just mentioned to him. They all have make-it grades on a 53. Now, whether or not all of them are starters, I can't say, but they all have make-it grades.
Yeah, I would say looking again at that group of players, you are going to have at least 1, maybe 2 first-round players in Walter Nolan, and then Jaxson Dart at quarterback. And then Prince Uman Mielen's going to be a day 2 pick. Trey Amos could sneak into the first round. He's going to be a day 2 pick. Trey Harris is probably going to be a round 2 pick, maybe top end of round 3. So these are all guys that are going to go high in the draft, be impact players at the NFL level. All right, 201-939-4513. Let me do my usual plug. Well, then we'll do your phone calls the rest of the way. Get on the lines. The lines are fixed, by the way. I know you guys got in with Paul and Matt yesterday.
We were so happy.
Our folks upstairs got that fixed right away. So
nice job, Justin.
Many props to Justin Warren on our IT staff for getting on that and getting that fixed. We really appreciate it, so we could talk to you guys about the draft. Only 2 weeks away to the day, Paul.
I couldn't believe it. When I get up this morning, and I had to check to see what day it was, because it does get confusing for me these days.
It does.
And I realized, I'm like, wait a minute. Thursday. We are 2 weeks away. I started to get jittery.
More jittery than you usually are? Usually you're jittery by nature.
I know. But I started to bounce off the ceiling just a little bit.
But yeah, it's 2 weeks away. So we're going to have either a Giants Huddle podcast or draft season pretty much every day from here until the start of the draft. Pearson Butler's psyched about it, let me tell you. And we kind of already have a lot of them recorded and booked, too. So we're going to be in really good shape here. We got a lot of good shows coming your way. So let me see. The last 2 that went up, I'm recording all these in advance, so I'm having trouble remembering which ones went up.
Ben Solak just went up today.
Ben Solak just went up today from ESPN. He's been on our programming before.
He's done a lot of combine stuff, too, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been on with us at the combine, but he works for he writes for ESPN. He does a lot of NFL stuff, but then he dives into the draft. He told me he was at around 112 players right now on his stuff. I passed him this morning. I got up to 115. So
I gotta count how many I did.
And so draft season went up yesterday.
So we're on a race. So Ben Solak just went up. Draft season went up yesterday. And then from earlier in the week, that's Matt Miller from ESPN and Charles Davis from NFL Network and CBS.
Great guys.
So really great list of guests here, guys. I'm trying to do a good job of hitting different players with different guys, so we're not getting the same guys all the time, and focus on different players so we learn about all the players as we head into the draft. Now I am focusing on certain position groups in certain areas of the draft based on where the Giants are picking, so we get Giant-specific stuff covered. Like, obviously, I ask all the guys about what the Giants should do with 3 and things like that. But otherwise, I try to mix it up to give you a feel for all the different position groups. I focus in on, Giant needs at 34 and in round 3, so we get a feel from these guys as to who the Giants might pick. So, again, Giants Auto Podcast, you get in draft season. It's all in the same Giants Podcast Network feed. It's on the Giants app, Giants.com/podcast, or just search for it on your favorite podcast platform. Great content coming your way. And if you love the content, you're on Apple, you're on iTunes, Apple Podcasts. It's not on iTunes anymore. It's Apple Podcasts. Shows my age. Found my iPod the other day. That was very exciting. It still works. Excellent job out of the iPod. But go leave a 5-star positive review. We really appreciate it. It helps our visibility and more people listen to our stuff. So make sure you go check that out. All right, the phone lines are open. 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. Let's go to Vinny in Florida. He's going to lead us off today. Vinny, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's been a while. How are you guys doing?
We're good, Vin. How are you, pal?
Great. For my first time in fantasy land, I am so glad I am not the general manager of the New York Giants, because this is it's just going to be a tough haul.
Why do you say that, Vin?
But there's no perfect scenario here. I think what's going to happen, Cleveland is going to dictate who we draft because they may take the guy we want.
Yeah, it's possible for sure.
But let's say Sador, we pass on him, and New Orleans takes him at number 9, and he becomes a great quarterback. The Giants are going to get the backlash from that. Fans are going to crush them. Oh, we could have got him and we didn't get him. So we've got that dynamic.
It depends on who the Giants take and how well that guy does.
No, but no, Vinny's right. If Jaxson Dart ends up being a superstar, it doesn't matter who you pick at 3. He's the quarterback.
Right.
People are going to kill the Giants for that. That's absolutely true. But Vinny, that would be hindsight, because I will say this now. It would, in my opinion, and I don't know anything about evaluating quarterbacks. I do the best that I can. It would be nutso to pick Jaxson Dart at 3. Nutso. Yeah, nutso.
It would be crazy. And you know what? Again, I don't care who goes to who later on in the draft. People who play that game all the time and say such and such was picked after you and turned out to be great. I'm not telling you
it's fair. I'm just telling you that's what people are going to do.
Well, they'll do it because people will tell them to do that.
Sanders is a great quarterback.
If the guy you take turns out to be great at 3, it doesn't matter.
No, it does matter. It does matter, because you would rather have the great quarterback. Like, if you could go back in time and take the great quarterback, you take the great quarterback.
All right. If Carter or Hunter turn out to be 8-time Pro Bowl players and go to the Hall of Fame, I could care less. Honestly.
Now, here's the other thing. Travis Hunter's a dynamic that he plays 2 positions. I mean, we're getting a 2-for-1. But I think Abdul Carter changes the dynamic of the team, especially if we pick a defensive tackle that is not a DJ Davidson and is closer to what Leonard Williams was. I mean, our defense, especially if we get Abdul Carter at 3, and then either at 35 or 65, whatever his picks are, we get a D tackle that can play, because I think our defense has the potential to be a formidable defense in the league.
Yeah,
if we can get Carter and a defensive tackle.
Yeah, Vin, real quick, based on what I'm hearing, it sounds like that the Browns are leaning Travis Hunter. That's kind of what the intel is right now.
Seems like it.
Things can change. You never know. And I think then I think the Giants have a pretty easy pick, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't. There are years, Paul, where at Vinny that
physically up.
Yeah, that we're sitting here and we're agonizing over who the Giants should pick.
Right.
In this situation, if Hunter's gone and Cam Ward is gone, Abdul Carter's an easy pick for me.
As long as
Ronnie
Barnes says it's okay. Yes.
Correct. He is a full tier, a strong tier above the next best player on my board. So that to me would be an easy pick.
That's why it's Vinny, right? Yeah. Vinny, I see it exactly the opposite from you. You're talking about this being stressful. I think it's like Disneyland. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. You're picking third. You're picking third. Hunter, Ward, Carter, even Mason Graham. I mean, you can't go wrong. You're going to get a great player.
In the pool and the work scenario. And if they get him, they have to, I repeat, have to figure out how they get Thibodeau, him, and Burns on the field 50% of the snaps. They got to figure out how they can get them at least 40, 50% of the snaps together. And then you rest them the other time.
I don't,
because then you get a defensive tackle that can play along Leonard Williams, and you already have the secondary that's somewhat put together now with our advancements. That defense could be very special. And with a quarterback, hey, let's say we get Jaxson Dart. Hey, Russell Wilson's going to play next year. I don't see the urgency for a offensive lineman because Evan Neal's going to go to guard, or they've got like 12, 13. They got offensive linemen that aren't going to make the team.
They have a lot of people.
Because
you're right.
They got a lot.
I just spoke to Carmen Brasillo about this yesterday. I said, "Boy, your room is overflowing. It's standing room only, right?" And he laughed. He goes, "Yeah, we got a lot of bodies in there."
Yeah, we just need them to stay helpful, especially.
And that's exactly what he said.
And Vinny, I'll say this. I think it's going to be tough to have them all on the field at the same time for 50% of the snaps, just because I don't think you could play all three of those guys in the field at the same time on first or second down rundowns.
No,
I think it's impossible. I don't think you can do that.
If they're up later in the game, you can put them on the field.
No, like
together.
all three guys on pass rush downs, put them all out there. I'm 100% with you on that. But if each guy plays, let's say, 70% of the snaps, and they each rest for 30%, you're basically getting at 200%, which is 100% at each edge spot. So if each guy plays about 70% of the snaps, I think you're rocking and rolling there. You're always going to have a fresh pass rusher out there. And then on third and longs, you roll all three out there. You bump somebody into defensive tackle, use them as a joker stand-up rusher. Then I think you're in business.
The one thing that you have to keep in mind about Carter, because he came to Penn State as a linebacker first and then became an edge rusher only this past season, he does have some more experience at playing some of the other responsibilities than just firing off the edge.
Yeah, but I think he's not a guy. He's not a guy you want setting the edge.
No, you don't. You don't. And to be frank, on first and second rushing downs at the beginning of his career, you're not going to want to put him out there very much.
You might not want him out there.
No, and that's absolutely true. But over the course of time, by the time his 8, 9, 10-year career is done, he'll wind up being a full-time player down the road.
Of course.
But at the beginning, first month or two, maybe he's just part of the sub-package, or maybe he's just part of certain particular, pockets of the playbook. Nothing wrong with that.
If they can scheme Mike McFadden over the last couple of years how they have, where he can get pressures and tackles for loss, and you substitute him with Abdul Carter in the situations where the other two guys are edge rushing, you're talking something special.
Oh, if you want to use him as a stand-up linebacker on early downs, all right, I could see that. If you want to use him as one of the two stand-up inside linebackers on early downs and mess with him, I think you can. I do think you have to be careful, Vin, giving a rookie, especially a linebacker, so much early in his career that he's swimming.
Okay.
Wean him in.
And,
Wean him in.
Maybe it's a couple of years. I think we should make an effort to trade up to get Jaxson Dart. I don't think he's going to last into the second round. Unless they like this kid Shook better. I mean, you guys for the first time heard of Shook. But if they like him better, but we got to get someone where we move up in the first round, but yet keep a pick that we can get a legitimate defensive tackle. Because that, I think that's the missing piece now. We still have not replaced Leonard Williams with a money player, and that's all I got. I love you guys, and
thanks, Vin.
Hey, let's go Giants.
I appreciate the kind words. I appreciate you listening, and guys, just remember, Leonard Williams was a third overall pick for the Jets. Fifth overall,
he was top 6,
maybe 6.
I forget what number he was.
I think it was fifth or sixth.
He was right up there.
Like, you're not finding a 300-pound guy that can stop, throw, and rush the passer at pick 34.
He was a very special player.
He's really, really good.
That's why I was so happy when they traded for him.
Like, he's a really good player.
He was 6th overall.
6th overall. Thank you, Pearson. So, to me, there's something appealing to me. And I'm all about, right now, I'm assuming Carter's going to be the pick at 3. And I don't know if he's going to be there, if Hunters are going to get picked at 2 or not. But working on the assumption that Carter is your pick at 3, I feel there's something that feels right about just picking like a big defensive tackle at 34. And like if you wind up with like Tyleik Williams at 34, or if Derek Harmon or Walter Nolan or Kenneth Grant drop one of those 3 guys and they're sitting there at 34, just pick one of those guys, and then you're basically like building your team like the Eagles have over the years.
You just named 4 guys. If you got any one of those 4, you'd be good, right?
But here's the thing.
I mean, come on.
Then you're probably not going to get one of the quarterbacks that you want. You're really rolling the dice that Milroe or Shook are not going to get to you at the top of the 3rd round, which would worry me. Because I want to walk away from this draft with one of, and I'll give you the group, one of Ward, Sanders, Dart, Milroe, Shook. I want one of those guys. Where you get them, we can have that debate. I would like to leave the draft with one of those guys, and if I end up leaving the draft with Quinn Ewers instead at the end of round 3 or even in round 3, I could live with that, but I'd prefer to leave the draft with one of those first 5 guys I mentioned.
I'm a Dart, Shook, McCord guy. Those are my 3. We could have different guys. Nothing wrong with that. I don't know what Joe's guys are.
No, neither do I, obviously.
I don't know what his list is, but my personal list is those 3 guys. You have a list of 4 different guys, and there's nothing wrong with that. Higher the upholder, right?
Yeah. 201-939-4513. Look, I think you feel really good picking in the top 3 in this draft. I think you feel great about that based on the talent pool. I feel bad for the Patriots because all the guys from the top tier are going to be gone for me, and you're picking a guy that in last year's draft probably would have gotten picked like 13th or 14th.
Yeah. Well, that's why Pearson keeps telling me, I want Travis Hunter. It's like, you're not getting him. You're going to have to take Will Campbell and be happy.
Look, Will Campbell's going to be a good player.
I said I want Travis Hunter for the Giants.
Yes, for the Giants. He says for the
I
Giants.
thought you wanted him for the Patriots.
No, I don't care who the Patriots get.
Oh, I misunderstood you. I apologize. You'll get Will Campbell and be happy with the Patriots.
Yeah, or Armand Membo. That could be a pick there too. I would consider, if I was picking with the Patriots before, I would consider Tet McMillan. And I'm sorry, apparently he does not like Tet, so I should not use that. Either T-Mac or Tetaroa McMillan. Apparently he does not like Tet. I've been told this.
Okay.
So I'm trying to be considerate to the player. He's a really good player. I like him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, 201-939-4513. Tyler in Long Beach is up next. Hi, Tyler.
Hey guys, how you guys doing?
We're good.
Hey John, hey, what's going on? I just want to talk about Joe Shane's draft strategy. Last year, I think there was PFF had something like 32 offensive linemen who played and with positive grades, and I thought that was something that, even though the Giants addressed it heavy in free agency, the depth part of that in the draft, that was something that we should have attacked. And going into this year, the draft is heavy in D-line, D-end, tight end, and running back.
Yep.
And although those might not be needs, I don't think that's an area that we should shy away from. Tyrone Tracy was air-casted off in training camp last year. Running back's a position where you're prone to injury, and I don't think that's something – I saw a beat reporter put out that it would be a mistake if the Giants drafted high at running back this year, which I don't think would be an issue. Same thing with tight end. We got Theo Johnson last year in the 4th round. If the Giants were to get another tight end in 3rd round, 4th round with good value and good a high draft pick, I don't think that's something that they should shy away from.
No, Tyler, I'm with you. I think you have to attack the strength of a draft class, right? So if you have a lot of really good players at a position and that's the best player available when you come and pick, I'm fine with that. I would not pick a running back or a tight end with my first 2 picks. That to me would be a little bit rich, just because, frankly, the running back position is so deep. I feel like I can get a dude that's really good at pick 99 or 105 with one of those 2, and I feel really good about that player.
There is no doubt.
I mean, I was going through this on my thing with Nate Tice. I still have more running backs to watch, and I mean good running backs. I haven't watched Damian Martinez yet. I've watched him briefly. I know what he's all about, but I have not put my grade on him yet. And as of right now, with still, again, a few more guys I need to watch, I have 11 guys with 1st through 3rd round grades. It's a lot of running backs.
There's plenty of them.
It's a lot of running backs. And there's no way 11 backs are going in the first 3 rounds. So you're going to be able to get one of these guys that can play significant time for you in round 3. Tight end's not quite as deep, but I think you can find a really nice tight end at the top of round 4. So I'm with you. If you get to a point and that's, a standalone best player on your board, I wouldn't mind reinforcing one of those two positions either. I'm fine with that.
You know, I'm big
I
on
think-
Tyrone Tracy myself, but I want to just throw one other item out there. And you mentioned the fact of injury, but how about the fact that he had some trouble holding onto the ball last year? I mean, he's got to get better with his ball security.
I mean, if you want, you can
because-
just draft Bayshell too, and he fumbled 7 times last year, so you can kind of just put them
I'm
together
not doing
and have
that.
him fix the problem.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly why I'm staying away from him like an allergy. You know,
Right, like
I'll tell you what, though, good running back.
think
I
Tracy
get
will
it.
be-
I get it. But ball security is there was a bit of a yellow flag
You can scream
with
one more,
Tracy last year. So
Yeah, I agree
let's
with that.
just hope that he fixes that this season. Because if that becomes a problem, September, October, the first couple of months of the year, and he starts putting the ball on the ground again, you know, coach is not going to be too eager to make him a featured part of the offense.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Right. Sorry. I do think Tracy is like good, solid rotational guy. You know, we always hope second year he's going to take that leap. Am I, you know, like, do I think he's going to be the guy? I don't know about that. You know, I wouldn't be. I'm not. I'd be okay if they address running back earlier than anticipated.
Well, Tyler, here's the question.
Running back class.
For running back, would you prefer the fast, explosive guy to complement Tracy or the big, bruising guy to complement Tracy?
I don't know. I think I would be okay with anything. We haven't had a big bruising guy in a while, so I would tend. I know, Paul, you always say you want the big bruiser. You know, of course, we all love Brandon Jacobs, something like that. But I would be okay with anyone that complements them. I just want to. You know what I want? I want a functioning offense. I haven't watched one in a very long time. That's all I want.
You know, that's
You and
very
me both,
reasonable.
Tyler. You and me
Extremely
both.
reasonable.
Appreciate the call, my friend.
Yep. Yeah, thank you guys for listening all the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tyler. Excellent call. Good points. Just remember, one connection, and this guy might go too early for the Giants to pick him. You know, the Giants running back coached last year, right? Liddell Betts.
Yeah,
Caleb Johnson.
yeah, at Iowa.
Yeah, who's a big, I wouldn't call him a bruising back.
He doesn't run like a hammer.
No, he's an outside zone guy. He's a really good, patient to the hole, quick through it, one cut upfield guy. He's not a lower your shoulder and grind out yards,
Right.
but he's got really good vision. He's faster than what his time to time was, in my opinion, and he's a really good outside zone runner. So again, I don't know if he'd be. I would have picked him at 34. I don't know.
No.
I don't know if he gets to the Giants pick at 65, but that'd be a guy that maybe, again, just because there's a connection between the coach and the player.
It's interesting you mention him, John, because I've had some people say to me, "Well, you want a hammer," and they mention him.
He's not a hammer.
Because all they do is they look at the measurables, right? And they think he is, but he's not. He
want a
doesn't play like a hammer.
I'll give you some hammers. Quinshawn Junkins is a hammer.
Yes, he is.
Cam Scatterbo is a hammer.
Scatterbo, Ollie Gordon.
Ollie Gordon.
Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State.
What do you think?
He's a hammer.
What do you think of Devin Neal?
I don't think I looked at him.
Watch him from Kansas.
Okay.
Watch him from Kansas. He's a really good player. I don't know if he's a little bit in between, but he's 215 pounds. Runs between the tackles really well, really good vision. Put Devin Neal on your list. I'm curious to see what your take is on him.
All right. I'll give you my
Both Ben Solak and Nate Tice said that he's
They liked him?
one of their favorite backs in the draft. And I had watched him. I have him. He's my first third-round grade. Right now, he is my 8th running back on my board. 8th.
my sleeper back on the third day, and he's a hammer, is Mullings out of Michigan.
He's the Michigan guy. I think
Yes.
there's
Michigan.
also
Khalil Mullings out of Michigan.
got it. I've not watched him yet.
He is my sleeper hammer running back. I mentioned him yesterday on the program. I think you could probably get him as late as the 6th round.
Yeah, you probably could.
He's going to be sitting there because he's got 1 year of starting production. Watch him. He is forceful. Now, he doesn't have breakaway speed.
He beat out Donovan Jackson, who was supposed to be their big runner this year. He beat him out for the primary
But
carry
again,
guy.
for guys who want hands, athleticism, breakaway speed, they want all that stuff, the jukes, they want all that stuff. You're not even going to be in the same ballpark or the same county as Mullings. But if you want a hammer, Mullings.
Watch Neal. Another guy that I have not watched yet that I've told I will love by multiple people is DJ Giddens out of Kansas State. Have you watched DJ Giddens
Yeah,
out of
I
Kansas
did.
State? What did you think of him? I have not watched him yet.
I wrote down
He's on my list for today.
patience, agility, and vision. I was not happy with no second gear. Runs a little high, and I wasn't very happy with his pass protection.
Okay.
So, yeah, I did look at him.
Where would you pick him? 3rd round, 4th round? Later?
Yeah, he would be third day.
He'd be third day for you.
He'd be third day for me.
Again, I've not watched him yet. I'm told I will love him, but I will see what my opinion is on him. Where'd you land on R.J. Harvey, by the way? Did you finally watch him?
I don't think I was very happy with him.
Really? With all his burst?
I wrote down, well, again, you got to understand what I'm looking at, right? I have different sets of criteria for what I want. I wrote down,
nobody that's fast.
I wrote down really good cutting ability, vision to daylight, has a good second gear.
Yeah,
I wrote all that stuff.
Yeah, that's
right?
really good.
But then I wrote down what I wasn't happy about. I thought he was indecisive.
He dances a little bit. I agree with that.
Okay.
That's fair.
I wrote down, this was a 2-word description, not angry.
He might be happy.
He does not run angry.
He might be happy.
I want a hammer who runs angry. Okay. He does not run angry. And I wrote down pass pro was also an issue for him.
Okay. No, I think those are fair.
So he's not, I'm shopping for apples. He's an orange.
Correct. Sometimes oranges are really tasty, though.
They can be. And juicy,
orange,
too.
Yeah. Nice clementine or a cara. They're both excellent. Let's go to Leroy in Charleston. He will be up next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hi, Leroy.
Hey, how you guys doing?
We're good.
Good. Listen, John, I know you're the college guy, and I need for you to take a look at my guy, South Carolina, my quarterback, Lenore Sellers, man. He's our dude, man. And I need for you to really take a good look at him. You'll see why I fell in love with him. South Carolina, because of Sellers, South Carolina is going to challenge for the SEC championship this year.
Well, I was going to say, please don't tell me he's draft eligible, because I'm like, I have no idea who you're talking about.
No, he's not. Yeah. But I'm willing to wait. These quarterbacks now, I wouldn't take one until maybe round 4, round 5.
Okay, I will make him, Leroy, part of my summer. Once we get done with the draft and I take a little bit of a breather, but usually like the middle of May, I'll start doing my summer scouting for next year's class. I will put him on my list for you.
Yeah, please do,
yes.
Man. And guess what, man? His brother is going to be there. He's the wide receiver. You're going to see him this year. They redshirted him last year.
I'll tell you what, South Carolina's defense this year, Leroy, was phenomenal. They had a really good defense.
Yeah, but they lost some guys.
No, they did. They have lost some guys, yeah.
Yeah, see, so I don't know if they're going to have enough, but I know they have the quarterback in place. And the kicker is he's from Harry Carson's neck of the woods, man. He's that type of guy, man. And one more thing before I get off. We do the Harry Carson Invitational every year, man, in Florence, in his hometown, and I want the guys who call in from the Charleston area to try to come down and meet Harry this year. A couple of years ago, we had Donnie Shell. We had Hall of Famers down there. And
Harry does so much for the community and doesn't do it for publicity. He just does it to help people.
That's right, man.
We call him Captain for Life here, right? That's what we do. We call him Captain for Life. Harry is one of the finest people that I've ever known in this business, and I'm happy to call him a friend. I can't say enough about Harry Carson. So
that's right,
what's the information on how people can participate in the tournament?
Yeah, it's June 19th down in Florence, and I wanted the guys who call in from the Charleston area to try to come down and meet Harry. Man. So we will definitely be there this year. This is probably year 4 or 5 now coming up. Mm-hmm. We've been doing the invitation down there in Florence's hometown. And if you guys want to come down, y'all can come down too.
Thank you for the invite.
And get some of that. Pulled pork, man. That barbecue, man. They have down there.
I love me. Thank you, Lori. Appreciate the call. I love myself some pulled pork. I think that's a little much for Paul, though. I don't know if he can handle the pulled pork.
That's a little heavy. A little heavy for me.
What if we pulled the pork and then slathered it in like vodka sauce? Would that make you happier?
Oh, my.
Is that a yes?
No, I'm actually not a vodka sauce guy either.
Okay, fine. Marinara.
Yeah, okay, fine.
You're so plain.
Yes, I am.
Oh, my gosh. Vodka sauce is too much for him. He's Italian.
With the kind of stress that I live with every day, it doesn't take much for a volcano to erupt inside my stomach.
We need to have him start drinking some Italian wine to calm him down.
I am a walking stress ball. You know that.
Yes, we got to introduce some nice Italian wines to get you to relax a little bit.
Or just a therapist or something.
I was flipping through my phone the other day.
Pearson, there's not a therapist alive who would take me.
I was going through my phone the other day looking for an old pictures back in 2011 for something else.
Okay.
And I came across the Super Bowl party pictures afterwards.
Oh, wow.
Paul was having a good time.
I was.
He was having fun. There were some pictures. It's a good time. I'm not going to post them. But that was as relaxed as I've ever seen you. And you were still intense, by the way. It wasn't like he was not intense.
No.
He was just intense in a more fun, relaxed way.
Yes. Yes. Indeed. I remember that well. Fortunately, I do. That's the good news. I actually remember it.
Sadly, since I had to run that whole dopey postgame show, I was like the last one into that damn party. I had to like go through crowds outside to try to get to the entrance with my wristband to get in.
Can I give you a real quick story about that? You'll love it. You'll love it. I promise you will.
What
So, in Indy, this is the second Giants-Patriots Super Bowl, just to make sure you folks are aware.
I should have level set that.
Okay. So afterwards, I've been told, you're invited to the Super Bowl party. So I'm all right, great. And I got the wristband. And I get back to the hotel, and I go to the door where the security is, and people are waiting to get into the party. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I thought I had the wristband. I should be able to get right in. And the security guy's like, no, you have to wait. All right, so I wait 5 minutes, 10 minutes. He's still not letting me in. And I'm wondering, like, what's going on? So I finally says to the security guy, I said, well, I've been waiting here for about 10 minutes or so. I don't understand. Why can't I get into the party? I'm with the Giants broadcast team, and I have the wristband. No, you have to wait. What is your name again? I give him my name. He comes back. He goes, no, you can't. You have to wait. You have to wait. And I'm thinking to myself, what in the world did I do? Well,
Tom Coughlin gave him your picture.
A couple minutes later, somebody else comes down. Same thing happens to them. And I can't remember who it was. It was someone I don't honestly remember who it was. I think it was somebody from the field crew. Turns out I was on the wrong line for the wrong party. I was on the line for the Eli Manning family party. And they wouldn't let me in to the Eli Manning family party.
Oh.
And after the guy finally figured it out that I was in the wrong spot, he goes, this is the Eli party. You need to go upstairs to the Giants party. Okay, sorry. I didn't mean any harm.
That is have you ever told me that story before?
Maybe because it just kind of faded away into the sunset.
So the theme of this party is that the Mannings do not like Paul Dottino.
I guess so.
Did you introduce yourself as Paul Manning?
No, I don't think he would have bought that. I'm not pale enough to be a Manning. But in any event, yes. So I could not get into the Manning party because I was there by accident.
That's funny.
And then had to get redirected to the Giants party.
All right, let's wrap things up with Jay in Phoenix. Jay, what's going on, pal?
Hey, I'll be quick, guys. I know you're at the end of the
No,
show.
you're fine. What do you got?
I just had a question. So let's just looking at the quarterbacks, and so beyond Cam Ward, chances are we're not getting him. But looking at Shador, we look at Jaxson Dart, Jalen Milroe, and the rest of them. All of them, none of them are perfect, right? None of them are, they all have different traits and things like that.
Yep.
What would you guys say are the most improvable traits after they become NFL pros? Because it's gonna, they're all going to need some development. But which traits can we actually improve? Because, maybe there's not a perfect quarterback for us to pick, but is there one that, this guy can still grow in this area? So I just want to get your guys' thoughts on that.
Jay, great question. Because I think this is important when you evaluate the quarterback position, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think mechanics is something that you can improve.
Absolutely.
Footwork. So if you watch a player, and I think Cam Ward would go into this category, and the footwork's a little sloppy, and that's why some of the inaccuracy is there. That's something with coaching you can fix. Like Drake May coming out last year, his footwork was messy. It was all over the place. Got fixed pretty quick. So feet and footwork and stuff like that, and just general mechanics, I think, is something. I mean, Aaron Rodgers completely overhauled his mechanics when he came out of Cal, for an example. So mechanics is something I think that you can fine-tune and critique.
There are schools for that before you even get to the pros. Correct. That they can help you with that.
And the results of that could be improved accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one affects the other. I know the old thing used to be you're either accurate or you're not. I don't think that's the case anymore with all these guys that do biomechanics. I think you can improve that. Now, I think the better question is what can't you fix?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What's going to hold a guy back?
I agree with that.
The instincts of how you handle pressure. That's something that's hard to teach. Mm-hmm. It's a visceral reaction. Can you stay calm in the pocket with crazy stuff going on around you and still go through your progressions? Do your eyes drop and then you're finished? Once your eyes drop, you're finished. You're not going to see things. I think also some guys can just naturally slow the game down and other guys can't.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can teach going through your progressions, but the speed at which you can do that, I think I think a lot of that is ingrown and just how quickly you can see things. Some guys can slow things down better than others. I think also that goes back to how calm you can be in the pocket and how you react to pressure. So I think kind of those instinctual things are things that are tougher to teach and improve, that a feel for pocket, a feel for timing, like the stuff that's a feel, that's the stuff that's harder to improve.
I agree with your instinctual part of that. The part that I will adjust a little bit is the progression part of it, because you can do specific types of schematics and styles of schemes and game plans that you can, to some degree, work around that if the guy has enough of something.
No, I agree with that. And again, I think you can help a guy with his progressions. You can get faster progressing, but I do think there's an innate ability to slow down the game and see things quickly. But you're right. You could adjust your offense to match how the guy is good at processing.
Which you'll get improvement, but it won't be what you're talking about.
I agree.
Because it's a systematic improvement.
Yes.
Right? I would add one other item here that is one thing you can't do. You can't change the guy's tools. What tools, though? His physical characteristics. You can't change them.
Like speed, body size, that sort of thing.
As far as a quarterback, you can train a wide receiver or a running back to run his 40 time a little bit better. Quarterback is working out of the pocket for the most part.
I do think with the mechanic improvements, I think you can get a little bit more velocity on the ball. A little bit.
Yes. Well, Phil talks about the torque.
Correct.
If you fix the guy's torque and the way he turns his hips and then gets his body into it, you can help a little bit of that.
Like, I think Daniel Jones' arm strength improved from where he was in college to when he got in the NFL.
I concur. But that's now technique, not so much. You can't improve his physical traits. Yep. You can improve the technique, which may help push it forward a little bit. It's a little different. In other words, you can't go to the weight room and say, okay, quarterback, you don't have a great arm. Go to the weight room and try to strengthen your arm. That's not going to work. That's not going to do it.
Oh, it's like you aren't good enough. You're not good at getting away from pass rushers. Go in the weight room and get that fixed.
No.
It's hard.
No.
It's hard.
So there are certain physical characteristics, the size of your hands, right? The height. Look, Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, they are shorter quarterbacks. You can't give them height. So what do? You have to scheme around it a little bit. You're going to have to work with a moving pocket. You're going to have to work more outside the numbers. Or if he's going to throw over the middle of the field, you got to make sure you roll him out and that he's throwing on an angle into the middle of the field. These are things you can work with. So I think the question, I like what John said. It's more about what can't you fix as opposed to what you can either fix or maybe work around. How about that?
Yeah, and I do think as you play more, I think it depends how old the quarterback is too. Right? Mm-hmm. Like if you're drafting a third-year quarterback that has just started for like a year and a half or 2 years and the processing is slow and he doesn't get through all his reads, well, yeah, no crap. He's barely played. If you're getting a 60-year quarterback and he has trouble getting through his reads, well, then that's probably more of a red flag, right? Because you haven't seen improvement in that area. Yeah. But then again, and this is I always reference back to my Kurt Warner interview last year. We tried to get him on again. He's on vacation for the next 3 weeks, so I don't think that's going to happen. But I tried. Where you don't know what they're being asked to do either by their coaches. So that's why when I talk about this stuff, it's hard for me to really judge that sort of stuff because I don't know what they're being asked to do. But anyway.
Let's look at Geno Smith for an example, right? Did he suddenly change his toolbox? or his traits.
He always had good tools.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's not what happened. Sometimes it's the system, it's the fit, it's everything around him.
Yeah, your decision making can improve. That's a good one. Like if you're in college and you throw a lot of picks, you can fix that.
Yes, you can.
That's something you can fix. Decision making.
Or you could also, on the flip side, like Parcells had told Phil Simms, let it rip. Be more aggressive.
That too.
You could do that too. But that's more of a coaching philosophy that then has to be transferred to the player.
Correct.
You're not necessarily fixing the player. You're just telling him to open up some of the stuff that he's already got inside him. That's really, because you're not adding anything to the player. You're really not. You're just telling him, hey, just change how you're thinking about this. That's all.
No, I'm with you 100%. All right, that's Big Blue Kickoff Live for this Thursday, brought to you by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. Paul and Matt will be back tomorrow at 12:30 with a Texas reporter talking about the Longhorns. So make sure you go check that out. And join us again live from the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. For Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmeelk. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.